The South China Sea shimmered at dawn, July 16, 2025. Aboard the USS Halsey, sailors settled into their morning routine, the hum of machinery blending with the salty air. This was a standard patrol, one of many in these contested waters. The mission: uphold freedom of navigation, show the flag, and remind the world these sea lanes are open. But here, routine can turn dangerous in an instant. In the Combat Information Center, sailors monitored glowing screens, alert for any sign of trouble. Captain Eva Rostova stood on the bridge, eyes scanning the horizon. She recognized the pattern: a Chinese maritime militia vessel shadowing them, a Coast Guard cutter paralleling their course. It was a tense, silent standoff, a test of nerves. The Halsey was ready, its advanced systems primed, but the goal was to avoid conflict. The crew moved with quiet professionalism, checking systems, running drills, maintaining vigilance. Every sailor knew they were on the front line of a new kind of conflict. One mistake could have devastating consequences. The peace here was fragile, kept by the steady hands of the U.S. Navy, and today, that peace was about to be tested. The sun climbed higher, glinting off calm water. The day promised to be long and hot. The crew braced for whatever might come. The tension was palpable. Trouble appeared as two faint blips on the Spy 1 radar, two high-speed contacts closing from the east, Hainan Island's direction. Vampire, two contacts bearing 090, range 150 miles, Angels 30. Everyone knew these were fighter jets, heading straight for the Halsey. Captain Rostova watched the hostile icons appear on her tactical display. Designate contacts as Bogey 1 and Bogey 2, query on IFF. The jets ignored the electronic challenge. No response. The silence was answer enough. The Tao leaned forward, weapons release authority at his fingertips. The range closed rapidly, 120, 180 miles. The jets flew in tight formation, speed over 500 knots, an aggressive approach. The Halsey was alone, support was hours away. The ship's mood shifted from routine to high alert. Damage control teams stood by, missile decks ready. The initial radar blips were now a direct challenge. The crew's training kicked in. Every second, the threat grew more real. The Halsey was a coiled spring, ready to react. The ghosts on the radar were about to become very real. The test had begun. The jets were now visible. Two Shenyang J-16S, China's premier strike fighters. Lookouts called, "Tally-ho! 2 aircraft, 090, high!" The fighters, bristling with missiles, screamed toward the Halsey. Their engines roared, vibrating through the ship's steel hull. The jets dropped to sea-skimming altitude, an aggressive, intimidating maneuver. Captain Rostova watched, seeing not just aircraft but potential threats. Was this a show of force or a prelude to attack? She had to assume the worst. The J-16S made their first pass, thundering directly overhead. Sailors on deck could see the pilots in their cockpits. The jets banked hard, circling for another run. This was harassment, a dangerous game of chicken at 500 miles per hour. The margin for error was zero. A single mistake could mean disaster. The roar of the dragon was clear. "We are here. This is our territory." The Halsey held its course, refusing to be intimidated. The crew's nerves were tested with every pass. The sky was alive with tension. The message was unmistakable. The standoff escalated. The next move would be critical. The Halsey's response was measured. No general quarters, but condition 2. More watchstanders took their stations. Combat systems were primed. The officer of the deck broadcast warnings. "Unidentified aircraft, you are operating in a dangerous manner. Alter course and remain clear." The message repeated in English and Mandarin. No reply. The J-16S ignored the warnings, continuing their aggressive maneuvers. On the fantail, the Bushmaster chain gun tracked the jets. The Phalanx CIBUS swiveled, radar locking onto the targets. The Tao, in constant contact with the captain, recommended illuminating the jets with fire control radar, a major escalation. "Negative, Tao, hold fire control. Continue warnings, record tail numbers, and weapon loadouts." Captain Rostova chose restraint, refusing to escalate. She gave the Chinese pilots a chance to back down. The crew maintained discipline, ready for anything. The ship was a fortress, but the goal was to avoid conflict. Every decision was a balance between safety and escalation. The tension was razor-sharp. The Halsey's professionalism was on full display. The crew's training and discipline were their greatest assets. The standoff continued, each side waiting for the other to blink. The risk of miscalculation was ever present. The world watched, unseen, as the drama unfolded. The stakes could not be higher. The Halsey held the line. The test of nerves continued. This encounter was a single move in a vast geopolitical chess game. The South China Sea is a vital artery. 1/3 of global trade passes through it. China claims nearly the entire sea, building artificial islands and military bases to enforce its claim. The US and allies insist these are international waters, upholding freedom of navigation. The Halsey's mission was part of this strategy, a demonstration that America rejects China's excessive claims. For China, control means sovereignty and security. For the US, it's about global order and protecting allies. Each side sees the other as a threat to its interests. The buzzing of the Halsey was more than a military maneuver. It was a political statement. The pilots followed orders. They were instruments of national policy. The crew of the Halsey knew they represented their country on the front lines of great power competition. Every action was loaded with meaning. The world's balance of power was in play. The stakes were global. The encounter was a warning. The contest for the Pacific is real. The crew understood the gravity of their mission. The chessboard was set. The moment of maximum danger arrived. The J-16S lined up for a head-on pass, aiming straight for the Halsey's bow, closing speed over 1,000 miles per hour. In the CIC, tension was electric. "Captain, closing head-on, range 10 miles, 5 miles, no alteration." Every sailor held their breath. This was the point of no return. Captain Rostova stood firm, binoculars trained on the jets. The roar grew deafening as the fighters filled her view. Should she turn? Fire? Any move could trigger disaster. She chose to hold course and speed. No intimidation, no first shot. She bet on the professionalism of the Chinese pilots. The entire ship braced for impact. Seconds stretched into eternity. The jets loomed, predatory and relentless. The fate of the crew, and perhaps more, hung in the balance. The world seemed to hold its breath. The test of nerve was absolute. The Halsey did not flinch. The next instant would decide everything. The margin for error was gone. The crisis peaked. For a heartbeat, the jets kept coming, less than a mile away. Captain Rostova stood her ground, projecting resolve. The Halsey would not blink. Then, at the last second, the J-16S broke formation, afterburners flaring as they climbed skyward. They had pushed the encounter to the limit, then disengaged. The immediate danger passed. A collective sigh of relief swept the ship. The J-16S did not return. Their message delivered. The radar icons faded. The sea's gentle sounds returned. The encounter lasted less than 10 minutes, but its impact would linger. Captain Rostova lowered her binoculars, voice steady. Secure from heightened alert, resume normal steaming. The crew returned to routine, changed by the experience. They had faced a real threat and performed flawlessly. The incident was a stark reminder of daily dangers. It was a testament to training, discipline, and leadership. The ship was safe. The crew was safe. A war had been averted. The lesson was clear. Professionalism and restraint matter. The Halsey had passed the test. The world had narrowly avoided disaster. The Pacific remained at peace. For now. In the aftermath, every detail was documented and analyzed. The incident became a critical data point for US strategists. It confirmed a pattern of increasingly aggressive Chinese behavior gray zone tactics just short of war. The goal: intimidate, wear down, resolve, change the status quo without firing a shot. The key lesson: de-escalation and professionalism are vital. Captain Rostova's restraint was praised. She refused to take the bait. The challenge for US forces: be ready to fight, but disciplined enough to avoid starting a war by accident. Realistic training paid off. The crew performed as trained, calm under pressure. Procedures were followed, leadership trusted. The human element, skill, courage, judgment, remains the Navy's greatest weapon. The encounter showed that restraint can be as powerful as firepower. The Halsey's professionalism managed a high-risk situation without force. The lesson in the Indo-Pacific: discipline is as important as strength. The world took note. The Halsey's 10-minute encounter was a glimpse of the future, a long, tense competition between the US and China. This struggle won't be decided in a single battle, but in countless gray zone confrontations. Incidents like this will become more frequent and dangerous as China's military grows. Each encounter risks miscalculation, a wrong move, a tragic outcome. The 2001 EP-3 incident is a reminder of how quickly things can go wrong. The challenge: manage competition without stumbling into conflict. This requires credible deterrence, open communication, and disciplined conduct. The crew of the Halsey set the standard. The goal: compete vigorously, but responsibly. The future of Indo-Pacific peace depends on choices made in moments like these. The July 16th incident ended peacefully, a victory for professionalism and restraint. But it was also a warning the Pacific is growing more contested. The long game has begun. The margin for error is shrinking. The world is watching.